Okay, so we're gonna look at creating a little portal or door to a new level, and we'll start where the player can just like walk into it, and it'll just go to another level. But then we'll also add some gating. So you'll have to have a certain item, or you'll have to have a certain number of items in order to enter that area. So again, there's different ways to do this. I'm going to go over one implementation, but if you have other things that you want it to do that are separate from what I cover, we could talk about how to customize it for your particular use case. So one fix that we want to do first real quick. So let's close these scenes. Doesn't want to let me click on it. Okay. So if we look at our menu scene for a second, so I'm going to go to the scenes and then UI and then the splash menu. So the code I use for this is not the best thing to do. I kind of forgot the new way of doing this in Godot. So let's go over that real quick. So in our splash menu, we have a button to start the game, and that uses this load level scene, which I set up as a packed scene. And this kind of creates issues because it's going to load the data from that scene. And so what was happening with Mehmet's game is that there was this like cyclical resource issue happening where both scenes were trying to load each other, and that will create an error. So Godot is preventing that from happening. So what we can do instead is load a file. So instead of an export, I forgot that what we need to do is change this to an export file. And that way we don't have to say we want a scene. We can just say we want a file here, and we can leave the rest of this the way it is. And then instead of changing to packed scene, we say change to scene2 file. And so that will fix issues that we may run into in the future. And now all we have to do is load the level scene we want here. So I'm going to click on here, go to scenes, and go into levels, and we'll load our Pac-Man scene. Okay, so now if I run the splash menu and I start, we're going to load the Pac-Man scene. Another issue that I ran into, also working with Mehmet's game, is that when you're in one of the main 3D scenes, your mouse gets captured so that you don't see the mouse moving around. But when you go back to a UI scene after that, then you can't use the mouse. So there's an easy way to fix that. We're just going to go in the same menu scene. I'm going to add a ready function. So I'm going to say func_ready. And I'm going to say, I actually don't remember. So let's go to our player script for a second and just grab it from there. Okay, so in our player script, in the ready function, it calls the capture mouse function. Down here, we see the capture mouse function. And so this just says input.set mouse mode to input.mouse mode captured. Just have to change that to something else. So I'm going to copy that and then go back to my menu scene. I'll paste that in. And so if we go input dot, it'll show us some options. I'm going to type in mouse, and then let's look for mouse mode visible. Okay, so now if we go out to a game over scene or some other UI scene, we'll be able to see the mouse if we have this script attached. Okay, so that should fix a couple issues, and that will set up, setting up our portal to load a new scene. We'll use the same basic idea. So in my Pac-Man scene, I'm going to add in a little door somewhere. And if I walk through that door, I'll go to a different level. And I'm going to add some different parameters. Like you could say you have to kill all the enemies, or you have to collect all the apples, or you have to collect a special key. So let's look at how we can do that. So I'm going to create a separate portal scene first and then throw it in here. So I'm going to make a new area 3D. So I'll click on new node, and I'm going to use an area here. So we'll be able to detect when the player has entered the area, and we'll either just go straight to the load level, or we can, you know, prompt the player to hit a button to load the level, or we can give the message that says, you know, you can't get in here. So we'll call this area portal. And I'll save it in scenes and components and click save here. So we want this to look like something. So let's add a mesh. I'm not going to spend too much time on the visuals for this. So I'll just add in a mesh instance. And for this one, I'll do another donut. And so I'll take this guy and let's rotate it up like that. So I'll rotate it 90 degrees on X. And let's throw a material on there. So I'm just going to grab one of my default materials. I'll use the blue grid. And that looks okay. And I might make this a little bit bigger just so it draws more attention. So let's make the outer radius 2, and I'll make the inner radius 1. And there's probably other ways that I could indicate that this is a door. Maybe I could have, you know, a model that I download from somewhere, or I could make it, you know, look more door-like somehow. Let's actually make it even a little bit bigger so it'll really stand out. So I'll make it like 3. I'll make this like 2.5. Okay. So now it looks like a little door. And so now I'm going to add in a collider. And the collider doesn't really have to match the mesh for this because we're not going to run into it. So I'm going to add a collision shape. And I'll choose a box. And I'll just roughly make the box match the size of the door. So I'll bring it in a little bit and then bring it up like that. And again, this doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to, you know, trigger something when the player gets around it. So that seems fine. And so then we are going to create a script for this. But we'll make some modifications depending on different circumstances. So I'm going to click on the Add Script button. I'm going to make sure to put this in the Scripts folder. Make sure to keep your scripts nice and organized so it's easy to find stuff. So we have our portal script. And so the main thing this script is going to do is it's going to load a new level. So let's give it an export variable so we can tell it what to load. And again, we're going to do an export file. Okay, so we're going to call this variable load, let's call it level 2 load, and we'll be able to just set that in the editor. So I'm not going to set it on the base instance because it'll be different in different instances. So we'll just leave that for now. So then, for our sort of like simplest version of this, what I'll do is if the player interacts with the portal, we'll emit a signal to our UI to say, you know, press, let's say, we can just choose a key to enter a new level. So we'll set up a node for that. So when the player enters this area, we're going to get a body entered signal. And so what we'll do is we'll just alert the player that they can enter this portal. So I'll make a signal, a special signal for the portal that says update UI, or update console, as I think is what we called it. And then we'll update it with a message. So if the player enters, we'll say update console, or say emit signal. So we'll send out a signal to update the console. And then we'll give it a message. So we'll say press, what should we do? G to go to the next level. And so then if the player leaves the area, then we're going to want to undo that message. So we'll say on body exited, connect to the same thing. And I'll do the same thing, but this time I'm just going to do an empty string. So I'll say emit signal, update console, and it's just going to be an empty string. So it'll just set the console back to saying nothing. So next, if the player is in the scene and they hit the G key, we want to load the new level. So we don't want to do this if the player's not there. So let's add a variable to make sure the player is there. So let's say player entered, and we'll set this to false by default. And so if the player enters, we'll say player entered equals true. And if the player leaves, we'll say player entered equals false. So we do want to make sure that the player is actually there. If the player enters and then leaves and then accidentally hits G, then the code is still going to work. So we need to make sure to think ahead to issues like that. Okay, so now we're going to look for player input. So we can use the unhandled input function for this. And I'm going to just go and look at the script that I used for the pickable to remember how to do this. So I'll just say if input is action just pressed, and we will make a new action for load a new level. So I'm going to copy that, and then I'll go back to my Portal script and paste this in here. And so we have to make sure this action exists. So let's go to our project settings, and let's go to input map, and we'll add a new key. So this will be the portal key, and I'll set this to G. And of course you could set this to whatever you want. Okay. So if that happens, then we're going to load our level. So we're going to get our tree. So we'll say get tree. This is our scene tree, and then we'll change level or change scene to file, and we'll add in that level to load. Here. Okay, so that should basically do everything we want. We also want to update our console to be blank again after we do this, and that should be most of what we need to do. We'll give this a test. So let's go to our scene, and we'll add in our portal. So I'll put this maybe over here. So I'll go to my main scene node, and I'll click the link to add the instance, and I'll type in portal. So we'll open the portal, and there it is. It's very large. Let's move it back here. And I'll put it right there. So that should be pretty, should be pretty obvious that this is something I want to walk through. And then we'll click on this portal, and we'll set a level to load. So I'll click on this file, and I'll just choose one of my other levels. So let's just choose level 2. Just choose a random level, just for testing. And then we need to make sure we've got this update console node. So we need to make sure to connect that to our UI. So my UI, my HUD is right here. So I'm going to update console. I'm going to connect that to the HUD. And I'm going to check and see. Let's see. So I have a ready function, and I have an on collectible item function, and an on pickup area update console. Okay, I'm just gonna make a new function because none of these are exactly what I want. So I'll say on portal update console, I'll click connect. But this does pretty much the same thing as my pickup area console, so I might, make this simpler later. But for now, I'm just gonna copy this and paste it in here. And this will have a message. And so I'm just basically doing the exact same thing with my my console, my UI, that prints out different messages. But I might want to make some other thing happen in the future, so it's okay to separate these two. Okay, so let's see if that works. So I'm gonna run the scene. I'm gonna have to avoid actually have to avoid the enemies now, so to wait for him to leave. And then let's see if I go over here. Okay. Oh, I don't have... It's very brief. So I think my collider is too small. Okay, so I see that... Oh, so it's... Okay, the collider is way too small. So let's fix that. Give myself a little bit more space to work with. I'm just going to pull these out a little bit. And let's try this again. So I could see it for a second, but I want it to stay for long enough that I actually can read it and press the key. Okay, so it's... There we go. So... it's disappearing. I wonder if something else is... Okay, let's do a little testing on the console, because it shouldn't disappear that quickly. Okay. So what I want to do is print out... This is the pickup area. And this is the message. And then the portal area. So this will tell me which one of these is getting triggered and resetting my thing. So when I enter... Okay. So it looks like it is the portal area. And this is exactly... Okay, this is the same... I know what I forgot to do. I forgot to set my layers and masks. So that's what we're going to do. So I'm going to go back to the portal. And I'm going to make sure that the only thing that interacts with this is the player. Which... I have to go to collision layer. Okay, so it's interacting with itself because it's on the same layer in mask. So let's give it a new layer. So we'll call this portal. We'll set it to the portal layer and take it off the player layer. Now we should get that message without any issues. And now I might want to make the box smaller, but I think it'll be fine. Okay, so still getting the same issue. Okay, let's see. Let's see. Okay, let's go back here and put those print lines back in and see what's happening. Okay, it's still the portal area. Okay, so let's take those out. And let's go to our portal script. And so on body entered. Let's print the body. And so we'll be able to see what's triggering it. Okay, so now, there we go. Okay, so it is just a character body. Oh, this is... Okay, this is stupid. Okay, so I didn't actually do this wrong, but notice that I set this emit signal to update the portal, but I got the indentation wrong here. This should only happen after we hit the pickup. And I also didn't change this to portal. Sorry, my brain is not firing 100% today. Okay, so now let's see. There we go. Okay. This works now. So if I hit G, now we go to a new level, which has a different issue, but that's okay. We're not worried about that right now. Okay, so now what we want to do is add some basic gating. So instead of just immediately sending the player to the portal, we can check to see different parameters. And so we can check to see if the player has collected enough apples. We could check to see if the player has collected a special item. So let's look at both versions of that. So if we could imagine, let's go back to our scene. So I have all these apples. Let's see how many apples I have. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, let's add one more apple just to make it even. Oh, it looks like there's an invisible apple right here. That's interesting. Oh, I turned it off. Why did I do that? I don't know. Okay, so we've got 10 apples, actually. That's good. And so we know that we have this global script. If we go to our global.gd, we have this apple count. And so that will tell us how many apples we have. We could also imagine, let's say we have like a special key. So we could call variable has special key, and we could set that to a Boolean and set it to false to begin. And so if we collect a special key, then we would just set this to true. So let's make a special key and do that first. So I'm going to go into my scenes and go to components. And the key is just a collectible like the apple. So I don't really need to add any other code here. I just need to set some different functionality here. So I'm going to duplicate my collectible item. So I'm just going to click on that collectible scene, collectible.tscn, and hit Command D. And I'll call this special key.tscn. Let's open this up. And so in our special key, obviously we don't want it to look like an apple, so I'll just delete this apple. I'm just going to really quickly make a goofy little key mesh. So let's add a mesh instance, and let's give it a box. And I will make this box smaller. But let's make it long. Let's make it like 0.5. And then I'll just add another mesh. And I'll put a cylinder. And let's rotate this. Okay, that didn't do anything. Let's rotate it this way. There we go. Or no, I want to rotate it on Z. Okay. And let's make the radius 0.1 and the height 0.2, something like that. Okay, here's our special key. I'm just going to leave it like that. Doesn't need to be, anything too fancy. Let's make our collider a little bit smaller. This isn't going to be a rigid body, so we don't have to pick this up. But if you wanted it to be, you could, of course. So then let's go to our collectible code and take a look at that. So normally, when we enter the collectible area, we just add to our apple count. So this isn't really going to work anymore if we have different types of collectibles. So we need to set a collectible type. So let's add an export variable. So we'll call this type, and we'll set the default to apple. So this means that we don't have to reset all of our apples because they're just going to have the default type to begin with. But if you have lots of types, you may have to, go back and fix some of these. Okay, so now when we enter here, we can ask. So we can say if type equals apple, then we're going to increment our apple count by 1. But if it's not apple, if type equals special key, then we can say global.has special key equals true. And then we can test for this when we try to open the door. Okay, so let's click on our special key and change the type. So the type is special key. It doesn't really matter what you put here. It just has to match what you're looking for in the code. Okay. Let's give our key a nice material. So let's duplicate our pink material. Oh, it doesn't want us to. Let's call this key material. And I'll just take the key material and change the color. I'll make it orange. Still looks very pink. I must have the material on. Oh, it has this emission. Okay, let's change the emission color. There we go. Okay, so that looks nice. That should attract our attention. So we'll go back into the Pac-Man scene, and I'll hide this key somewhere. So I'm going to click the instance and find our special key. And then I'm going to hide this all the way back here. Okay. And so now I should be able to collect this, but it won't really change anything quite yet. So let's just see if it's there and if we can collect it. Okay, so we collected our key. So now if we want to enter the door, let's check for the special key. So let's go back to our portal and open up the portal script. And so now we're going to update this a little bit. So we're still going to leave most of this the same, but before we change to the level, we're going to check to see if the player has the key. So we're going to say if global dot has special key, then we'll load the new level. And else, if they don't have the special key, then we're going to give them a different message that says you need the special key. So I'll use this emit message here and say you need to find the special key. Okay, so let's give that a try. So if I walk over to my door, it's going to say press G to go to the next level. If I hit G, it says you need to find the special key. And if I leave, it's just going to start over. Okay, so now we know we need to find something. So we're going to look around. And, oh, that looks like a special key. So let's grab that. And now, whoops. Now I can go to the next level. Okay, so that's like one simple method. We're also going to look at adding items, but that's basically the idea. We use a global variable, so that way we can update it in different places. We could also keep track of it on different levels. And then when we want something to happen, we just check if that value is true or false. And if it's true, then we get to go to the next level. If it's not, then we give the player a message. We could also put that in here, like instead of saying press G to go to the next level, we could give them a message here that says, oh, if you don't have the key, you're going to need to find the key first. That might make more sense, actually. Maybe we can rewrite it like that. Let's say that they also have to have 10 apples. So let's put that in here. So when we enter, let's say if global dot apple count is less than 10, then we'll do a different signal. So we'll say emit signal, update console. We'll say you need 10 apples to use to go to the next level. And then else, we'll say press G to go to the next level. Okay, so this isn't going to actually change the logic up here, so we have to include the logic up here. So we have to say if global.has special key and global.apple count is greater than or equal to 10. Okay, so now let's give this a try. So if I have 1 apple, I go over here. It says you need 10 apples to go to the next level. Okay, so I'll go grab 10 apples. Okay, so now go back over here. Press G. Oh, I still don't have the special key. Uh-oh, I got killed by the enemy. So let's try that again. Now I've got all the apples. Uh-oh, the key's gone. Oh, I think I'm on a different level, maybe? Uh-oh, what's going on? You're right. Okay. Let's see what happened. Okay, I have some bugs. Let's see if that's in there. I don't think that's related. Okay. So, let's fix a couple things. So, I don't know why the key was gone. But I may have loaded a different level. So, let's see. When I go to the splash menu, what scene am I actually loading? I'm not sure. Okay. The other question is, did I fix the enemy? I don't think I did. So let's open up the ghost scene. I don't think I fixed this level load thing. So let's get rid of this. Okay, so we need to change this game over scene to an export file, not a packed scene. And so if I die, that's here, if the enemy attacks the player. So instead of change to packed scene, we're going to change to scene to file. And let's also set my global.apple count to 0. And global dot has special key to false. Oh, I misspelled global. Okay, I think that'll fix everything. Let's give that a try. Oh no, I have an error. Invalid numeric notation. That's interesting. Okay. What happened? Oh, I accidentally added an S here when I was saving. Okay, let's get all my apples. Let's check for my key. Okay, the key, something's happening to the key. Actually, I have a theory, but let's see if I can go to the main level. You need to find a special key. Okay, let's go to our key, and where's our key? Oh, our key is inside of a collectible. I don't know how that happened, but somehow when I put the key in the scene, it's inside of another collectible. Let's call this special key. I put it inside of another collectible, so when I was getting rid of the collectible, I was also getting rid of the key. Okay, so let's delete that. Let's add in our special key. Okay, now we can see that it's there. And let's put it right here. Okay. So I don't know how I managed to do that, but let's try one more time. Okay, I'm gonna grab that key. So now I should be able to go out here. Okay, there we go. So there's lots of other ways you could do this. You know, you could have multiple keys, you could have multiple items. You could say you need to kill all the enemies and track how many enemies are killed. Really, whatever you think should be the sort of, you know, end state for the level or whatever portion of the game you're in, you can set that up to, you know, be the required parameter. I'm going to change the script up a little bit because I think it makes more sense to tell the player if they're missing items rather than wait for them to press the button. So let's check. So let's say if global dot has special key, if not global dot has special key, then we'll tell them they need to find the special key. And then else if, or elif in Godot, they don't have enough apples, we'll tell them they don't have enough apples. And if they've got everything, then we'll tell them how to go to the next level. So then I'm just going to delete this part, and we don't need to worry about it here. Okay. So I'm going to test that one more time, and then we'll be done. So if I try to go here to start, I need a special key. Okay, so I'm going to look around. There's the key. Now, I'm going to try again, but it says you need 10 apples. Okay. Grab these apples. And let's try it one more time. Okay, now we can press G and go to the next level. Okay, I think that's it. So yeah, that's a very simple gating interaction. So we're creating a gate. The player has to achieve some objective in order to open that gate. And then on the other side of that gate is either some new content, some new level, maybe a reward, whatever makes sense for the dynamics within the game. Okay, I'm going to add in some underscores because it's going to whine at me if I'm not using these arguments, but I think that's the whole script. So let's go to GitHub, and we've made a bunch of changes here to to a lot of stuff. So we did a few different things here. So we fixed the level load, added portal and portal script, and I think that's it. So I'm going to commit that and push that to our repository. And so again, if you go onto the GitHub, you can either download this script, or you can, make the updates, but you can see the portal script here. And so it's not too crazy at the end of the day. And we also updated our HUD script, but we really just kind of added the same thing in here. So we could probably use a generic function there, but this will work fine for now. Okay. Any questions or want to review anything? Okay. So I'll upload this.